Greyhorn Pagans podcast. Here we discuss all matters paganism, heathenism, witchcraft, history, and mythology. Leave a like, leave something nice in the comments, share this with everyone, and enjoy yourselves on this amazing episode of the Greyhorn Pagans podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Greyhorn Pagans podcast. It is good to have you all here. It's good to have you watching. It's good to have you listening. I am, of course, here with the lovely FireFae, because for our guest, I gotta have her on. Same soul, almost. And, of course, our guest, Miss Lindsay Stanton. Not used to the N in between. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for responding on the, what was it, podcast guest forum?
It was. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, no, of course. I read the bio that you did, and you have quite an interesting story. So yeah, for everyone who may not be familiar with you yet, introduce yourself. What do you do? What are you about? What's your story?
So yes, Lindsay Stanton. I'm an intuitive Reiki healer. I'm trained in somatic therapy, and really my whole journey down this path of healing for myself and now for others started in 2020 with the passing of my husband, Roger. And I have always been, I would say, intuitive and gotten signs. Maybe they seemed like lower, like subtle before Roger's passing. And then I would say megaphone after he crossed. Like I always say it was like kind of like on steroids, if you will. I was just like, yeah, crazy, mega loud, like some of them billboard-ish type signs, but that led me, I mean, honestly, a lot of the tools that I ended up getting trained in and and being certified as a coach largely came out of my own survival and my own, kind of need to put one foot in front of the other to survive such a huge transformation. And I would say now I would say it is a transformation versus a loss. I think, the loss of physical body is certainly a loss. And I do, mourn that regularly. But I have learned to dive into the more limitless interdimensional communication that we have built now, which is actually such a blessing and such a huge gift, and in many ways much better, much more superior to the limited interaction we have here in the physical world.
The Greyhorn Pagans podcast is proudly sponsored by Shop Reclaim Repurpose and their Nefatafel set. That is Viking Chess, a centuries-old 2-player strategy game that is easy to learn but rich with complexity. The defending player aims to escape the corner with their king, while the attacking player aims to capture the king. Nefatafel is about outwitting your opponent and making strategic decisions based on the board's ever-changing conditions. This portable version of Nefatafel, or Tafel for short, is perfect for history buffs, Viking enthusiasts, or anyone looking for a unique and challenging board game that can be taken on the go. perfect for the upcoming holidays, of course. And with my code seen on screen now, which will also be in the description box down below, of course, you can get 10% off your purchase on one or more, of course, Tafel sets. Simply go to his website, shopreclaimrepurpose.etsy.com. Use coupon SteinfoxTafel for 10% off your entire purchase. Again, coupon code SteinfoxTafel, or go to the link shown on screen for 10% off. Thank you so much for Shop Reclaim Repurpose for sponsoring us. It means the world. Now let's get back into the show, shall we?
Really?
Yes.
I would have never guessed.
That's what I have with your brother, honey, when he's crossed. That's exactly what I have with your brother.
Well, Han, tell your story with that a little. I mean, that's the whole reason I have you on as
That's okay with
my
Miss
co-host
Stanton?
with
Is
Lindsay.
that all right with you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to hear it.
So, we lost Stein's little brother to mental illness. How many years ago? Couple?
Ooh, at least 2 years ago. No?
So 2 years
Yeah.
this year, and I'm a
What-
medium, and
Yeah.
I'm also a death coach and a death doula, and he's my anchor between the worlds, and our communication has been so amplified that Stein knows exactly when his brother's coming through, because he's like, holy moly, because it's strong. And he talks a lot more on the other side than he did in this life.
That's beautiful.
He's a chatterbox.
That's beautiful. And I full
There
body.
Well, and there are times where I'm just like, dude, not now. Because it's just so much.
That's probably how Roger feels with me, because I feel I talk to him in my head all the time, and he was quite. Both of us could hold our own in the talking department, so people would laugh because we had the pleasure of being able to work together, and as a result, travel together for work as well as personally. Like we packed, so we were here in the physical world together 20 years, and we packed so much. Like I've told so many people, like we packed in more than, a life, like what most people would have in a full lifetime together, just because we were together nonstop. But in the rare instance we weren't physically in the same place, we would be on the phone forever. And both of our sets of friends would tease us, like, let me guess. So I appreciate that fully. And yeah, I mean, I think it is such a beautiful thing that we're able to be in communication with them constantly. And I look at it from the vantage point now of, yes, it's difficult to not have him physically here, but now he can help me in so many ways, and we can just have like such a beautiful connection beyond the limited physical. So we're never separated, versus before, if we were, like, there was times when I was going somewhere and he was going somewhere else. That never happens anymore. Now he's always with me anytime. And, I think that's one of the beautiful gifts that we can give people when we're helping them, when they've experienced somebody crossing over, is being able to tap into that limitless connection and understand that you might not be able to physically see them, although sometimes you can, but they're always with us, and always waiting for us to call on them and ask them for whatever we might need, or even just to listen to us.
And that's why I love the communication that I have with him, because in this life, he was very socially awkward, and I was too. So I never really got a chance to get to know him like I know Stein's younger sister. But now it's like I've seen a different side of him, and it's like, it's nice because I get to know him and I get to run those by Stein. He's like, yeah, that was my brother. Yeah, that was my brother.
Which always surprises me to hear that, now he is such a chatterbox
talkative person. I mean, there are times where I'm just like, dude, I'm at work or I'm with a client. I need to tune you out from it.
I mean, in life, with certain people, he definitely was able to let loose more, especially with his back then girlfriends. They were
They were
They were
irreceptible.
they were a lovely couple. Yeah, like, truly I actually first met her on our father's and sister's birthday because they share a birthday. I always say that my father, for his 38th birthday, he got a daughter. Amazing gift, neatly wrapped up in his wife. But they were such a lovely couple, like all the teenage giddy kind of couple.
And the
all
way that she did her speech at his funeral, I'll never forget, even though it was in
Oh.
Dutch. What she would say is, "Ik hou van jou," which basically means "I love you." And then she would say, "For this, I love you for this. I love you
Yeah.
for this."
Oh, wow.
And it was, even though I didn't understand what she was saying, you felt it and you understood.
Yeah, no, both of them had a way with words, both very, very good writers. So yeah, that doesn't.
That's why I was so excited to have you on, because it's like I have that same connection with Stein's brother, and I was just like, I need another person to talk to about this.
It is such a gift, such a miracle. I mean, I literally thank him every single night before I go to bed, because it is just, yeah, it's so special.
It is, and he's been able to strengthen the communication that I had. I mean, I was able to hear and see and feel my grandfather before, but now it's amplified, and my grandfather has come through so much more clearer lately, and it's like, holy moly. I mean, I don't want to speak ill of how Dawa passed. I don't want to speak ill of that, but since he's passed, he's helped strengthen my gift so much, and he's helped lead me to the path where I'm a death coach and doula now.
That's
So.
beautiful. Well, I really believe that's our part of our soul contract with people that we're close to in this lifetime and beyond. When they transition, when we transition, I really feel that, and that's actually another thing that helps my clients in grief is understanding that why. And it might take you a while to uncover it, but there is always why. And I 1000% know in my heart that everything does happen for a reason, even though it might not be easy to experience. There is a reason behind it. There's a learning behind it, and there's a growth that can occur as part of it. And when we open ourselves up to that, we can facilitate that communication to have them assist us in our soul's purpose. And so oftentimes people transitioning early, what we would consider premature in the physical world, that's the reason. It's to help us, those around them, on their soul's journey, and we just have to be open to it.
Well, and that's the interesting part too, where Stein's my physical realm. In this realm, he's my anchor to keep me grounded here. And then Dawa is on the other side, being that anchor and helping me on the other side. So it's like I have two brothers on opposite sides of the veil helping me.
That's beautiful.
And then
What a gift.
the younger sister is still here to bully the older brother with.
With me.
Yeah,
But, I mean, that's like the beautiful part. And it's like you said, I'm thankful for the connection that I have with him now, because it's like, I mean, even though he doesn't shut up, he has definitely helped me through a lot in the last year and a half, because I've discovered a lot.
Yeah. Lindsay, if you don't mind me asking, like you said you were together with your husband for 20 years, never separated. Even if you were separated, you still weren't separated, always talking. So I'm kind of thinking like, so if you were always talking, if you were that close already with his passing, you said you got even closer. Like, how is that possible? Like, if you were that close already, how can you be even closer than that? Like, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think just opening myself up to the possibility. We thankfully, both of us, actually the exact same day, I'm sure at the exact same moment, we were not together, but he was in hospice. We both got like downloads about the fact that this wasn't going to be the end, that we were going to be able to continue our relationship, and that it was never going to end. And that, I think, opened us both up to like being able to communicate across the veil, as you referenced it. But I think just being like, just it's bigger because of all that can be done now. Like, I mean, and honestly, I get so many dream visits with him. Like, I almost feel a little bit guilty when I go to like grief retreats and events and stuff, because it's like, I know there's so many people out there I'm incredibly thankful for. And at the end of the day, I would never want anything but that. But there's so many people out there that would love to just have one. And so that's actually something that I help my clients to try to help facilitate. But there are puzzle pieces that can be put together. And I firmly believe we're basically in another dimension when we're in a dream state. And that's why it's easier for us to communicate and receive information both in our physical body as well as, audibly, even though it's non-verbal communication. Typically through dream visits, it's more of an absorption of the knowingness. But there's just a deeper level of integration. And because of that, like, I would explain it when he tells me or shows me things in a dream visit, there's like a cellular integration that just doesn't occur here in the physical world. And so because of that, I feel like it's just made our connection even closer. And just the fact that we can do that, right? Just the fact that we can even have that, like, what a gift. Like, I feel so unbelievably blessed to be able to have that relationship with him. So that takes our relationship to the next level as well.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that makes sense. So because you are communicating on a higher level already, it is easier to integrate that into the physical. Okay. I mean, my wife and I, FireFae and I, we do that too, in a way, since we are in a long distance relationship. The dream world or wherever we may find ourselves is where we have our bigger
As your brother puts
adventures.
it, we're always in trouble.
But that's on all planes of existence.
So what made you want to channel your grief in this sort of way? Because I know a lot of people grieve differently and they express it differently because there's no linear ways of grief. What made you want to change it into positive in this kind of way?
I would say that's like who I am in this incarnation from the beginning. I've always been, very much a positive person, and always, even in the fight, like, see, the other side. I also know that I was chosen as like a channel, like, just writing my book even. I mean, I could say I wrote a book, but did I really write a book? I really just channeled a book, because I couldn't even keep up with the pace of the writing when the words were coming to me. So I early on recognized, I think, that this was the reason for his, what I would view a premature passing, was because we were meant to do this work together. And it's interesting. So I had a medium tell me early days that I was going to write a book, but I already knew that. It was funny. The whole session, she was like, you already know, like, why'd you even hire me? Because you already know all these things, because I had already heard them directly. But, sometimes it's nice to just have that bow on the top of the package of validation from someone else. But when she was talking about the book, she talked about it being a pathway and to larger, bigger things, and being able to build and help people in a way that had never been done before. And that deeply resonated with me. And I knew that the book was just a step in that direction and was just going to be kind of the foundational element. So I think I just really felt from the beginning that this was the why. And it took a lot of work myself to, and I dove into all different things. I wasn't necessarily listening to things or consuming content that was just spiritual. Some of it was self-help, movement, and being outside were huge for me. Doing those activities kind of acts as a conduit for me to be able to receive more information. I feel like it's almost like my antenna being outside. But yeah, I just, I really felt called early days, I guess, that this was the reason. Knowing that this was the reason just makes me totally centered in my need to be able to do this work. Yeah, nothing's more important to me. And honestly, when I hear from a client that I changed the way that they're able to live, and I brought joy to their kids again for the first time since a passing, like, what else is more important than that? I mean, absolutely nothing is more important than that. Nothing is more gratifying to me than that. So I know that was long.
It's okay. Is there like something that you would recommend for people who are going through the grief? Because I know my grief with Stein's brother is different than his family's grief. Is there any advice that you could give people who are still grieving really hard?
Yeah,
Is there
I think
anything that you would recommend for people to transmute it differently?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think ultimately tapping into yourself and giving yourself the grace and the space to listen to what you need, because all of us do go on a slightly different journey. I think some of the same tools and modalities can be, helpful to all, but we all do go on our own individual journeys. And I think one of the things that I did that probably helped me the most early days was just letting my body tell me what I needed to do next. And for me, that was movement and meditation. I had never meditated prior to Roger's passing. And those two things were just opened the floodgates for communication for me, but just tapping into your own needs. And sometimes that is just a complete meltdown, and that's okay. And understanding that that is okay. And it doesn't even have to just be early days. Like that can happen anytime, can feel like early days. I mean, and just giving yourself the space and the grace to know that that's okay. And that it, like, probably one of the things that people said to me that resonated the least after Roger's passing was, oh, you had a really hard year. And it's like, no, this is not a year. Like, this is my, like, now new normal,
Yeah.
So just understanding that and understanding that things will be different now. And that's okay. Like, one of the constants in life is change. One of the things that we always have to deal with is change. And now what? Now what can you do? And what is your body? Our bodies tell us so much, which is why somatics resonated with me so deeply to get trained in that. Our bodies tell us so much. And when we tap in and tune in and listen to them, that's when the magic can really start to happen.
So just for me, I guess, because I have no idea what is somatics exactly? Because you mentioned it a few times. You mentioned it in your Instagram bio as well. I have never heard of it, actually. I know about Reiki through my wife, but somatics I am not familiar with, just so that I'm understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I'm sure there's probably people listening that don't know either. So it really is the felt sense, that it's working with the felt sense in your body as a therapy method to listen and learn from what your body is telling you. Like if for example, if your central nervous system is, creating like a fight or flight sensation for you because you walked into a triggering situation. And somatics traditionally is used for trauma, but I have learned, and actually this goes back to your question earlier, that I've learned that there's so many parallels with trauma and grief. And I actually firmly believe that grief is a form of trauma. But so a lot of the tools that worked for me best early days were things that people use in trauma response. And it's like regulating your central nervous system. And somatics really helps you to do that, to tap into your body's response. And then kind of dig into it. Why are you feeling this way? Why is this creating this sensation within your body? And then learning techniques within your body to not only listen, but to help heal it. So, if like for central, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that actually all sounds very familiar. I never knew that was somatics. My former therapist,
that's what you use in therapy. That's what.
Yeah. I was just gonna say my former therapist. She included a lot of more spiritual, shamanic practices in her work, which I believe is the reason that she was able to help me as much as she has. And she would also tell me to, well, quite literally, get to the bottom of it, like go through the layers. It's like I'm feeling this. Okay, why am I feeling this? Well, because of this. Okay, what's the cause of that? Well, that's this. Okay, how does that?
Yeah, she was using somatics.
Yeah. Okay, but now I understand. I never knew there was a word for it. There wasn't that was an actual thing. I know it's a therapy thing, but okay, thank you. Now I know. Good.
No
Good.
problem.
So I'm always curious. When did you find out you had that connection with the other side, if you will? Because for some people, it's from when they were kids, like like FireFae. But we also recently had someone on the podcast who.
I am so sorry I didn't hear what the question was.
Well, when she discovered that she had the gift, because we have discovered that there are like
with me?
two. Yeah, you knew from like basically when you were a kid, right?
I knew I was different because I was seeing and hearing things that I couldn't explain. Like, I would ask my mom, why was I seeing somebody in a different period dress than we were? And she's like, what are you talking about? There's no one there. And as soon as she got in tune with her, she started hearing, because she can't see. She doesn't have the sight. I have the hearing and the sight. My sister has the sight. So that's where it's like I'm a mixture of both. So like when my mom was able to tune in, she was realizing that I have that gift. And for the longest time, it was hard to distinguish living and the other side because it felt so real.
That makes sense. Yeah, I've told people before, I feel like sometimes the connection with the other side feels more real even than the physical realm. Like I had experiences in dream visits that feel far more real than anything I've experienced here in the physical world.
And that's exactly what would happen with me in school because like I didn't have very many friends. I was always a loner. And so when that would come through, it was so potent that I was labeled the crazy girl because I was talking to someone in a corner. Because it was so vivid.
Mm-hmm.
But babe, you are the crazy girl. That's why I love you.
I mean, I'm crazy, but just not in that way because like that's the thing too, where if you can't see it or hear it or understand it, then people think you're crazy. And that's where, I grew up going to a private school. So it was definitely that she shouldn't be doing this. This is weird. What is she doing? So
I went to private school as well.
it was hard. It was really hard because I was teased badly.
Yeah, I do think that that's very much shifting now. I think there's so much more awareness around this topic. It's becoming so much more mainstream, and people are turning to it because they recognize that the solutions that the material world is offering don't cut it. So
that's why I like the Oracle deck that I have. It's called the Golden Future Oracle, and it talks about how we're going into the fifth dimension.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Gary Zukav's work, and he talks about that as well, that our souls chose to be here, and we were chosen to be here because we're rising the collective consciousness right now.
Let me see if I can find it real quick.
And
there's so many.
I do understand that, the things beyond the veil can seem more real, especially with the state of the world today. You could say things are happening that, you would only read about in books or see in movies, and everything is changing incredibly fast, or, something happens and then gets fact-checked into oblivion, so it doesn't exist anymore. So I can understand that, the things that are happening beyond the veil, like that they are, pretty constant, and that those are actually happening. It's kind of hard to fact check beyond the veil. I'd be very impressed if you're able to do that.
I did want to answer the question you asked me originally.
Oh, yeah. Please.
I would say, I know my truth is that like all this is energetics, right? Being able to connect with the other side, our physical bodies, it's all energy. And that's why they're able to do things for us and the signs and things. And so as a kid, I didn't necessarily recognize I was having any like psychic or medium abilities, although I definitely, in retrospect, did have some. Nothing like Faye was mentioning, but just more of a knowingness of things before they occurred. Not physically seeing somebody, but having a knowingness of things before they occurred. And lots of deja vu. I've had like deja vu feelings my entire life, so many situations. But animals always connected with me deeper and easier, which I also think is part of the equation with this as well. Like I've had so many times in my life and as a kid even where, you know, wild animals would like come up to me and basically just kind of be like transfixed and like in my energy. And we would like had this mutual reverence for each other. And like, I mean, just, you know, things that other people don't experience. And then when I was in my 20s, I started to, like, when my grandparents passed and stuff, I just knew I could communicate with them. And I knew if I asked them for help and protection in situations that they could provide it. So that's probably when things started, like, kind of ramping up a bit more, was probably more when I was in my 20s. And like I mentioned earlier, once Roger passed, it was like...
Yeah, the floodgates opened.
Totally.
But you said you have a lot of deja vu. I can imagine especially being younger, that can be very confusing. I mean, I haven't had it as much, but I can definitely remember situations where you could say like came into the situation where I had the deja vu or premonition or however you want to call it about. And I was just like, but I already did this. I already was here. This looks oddly familiar, but for me, that was more I guess that happened more in my teenage years. But as a younger child, wasn't that incredibly confusing? And how did you deal with that?
No, not necessarily confusing, but I think there were times where I like knew I'd met somebody before. So I think a lot of times it related to knowing somebody from a past life or like having some type of soul connection with somebody. But yeah, so I don't know. None of this has ever scared me or freaked me out. I've always thought of it as a blessing, you know, and been very grateful. I've never had like any negative feeling at all. Like it's always been, I've just always been so thankful.
That's great. It's great that you were actually able to deal with it. Yeah, FireFae had to go. She is off to work, off to deal with the kids.
It was such a pleasure meeting her and being able to hear her experiences. I actually firmly believe that the more we have these conversations with each other, the more it does raise the vibration and help the collective. So that's why I think these conversations are so important.
Yeah, no, they absolutely are. And there is I do definitely believe that there is a revival of some sorts happening within the Greyhorn Pagans, or the bigger scheme of the Greyhorn Pagans.
That's why I named my practice and my website what I did.
The soul revival. Yeah, of course. Well, we have dubbed it the pagan revival, but it comes down to the same thing, but we look at it more from a European pagan aspect. You know, our gods are really making themselves known again. The amount of, I want to say believers, but that's not the right terminology. Well, the amount of people who can see.
Yeah, that are tuned in.
Yeah. And in turn, that, strengthening the gods, and that's, a whole cycle that is happening. And why I love doing this podcast. I get to meet so many amazing people, hear so many fascinating stories. I mean, I've had mediums on before. I mean, my wife is a medium, or people who have that connection to the other side, but everyone's story is still different. Mm-hmm. It may follow a similar path. They may have gotten there through similar ways, but still every story is different. Mm-hmm. And that's so amazing. It's so beautiful and humanizing at the same time. Like, yeah, we are all humans. We are a collective, but we are also still individuals. And I do believe that in some modern day spirituality that does get kind of lost, too busy focusing on being a collective. I've had that discussion in a group recently that it seems that too many people, it's more new age spirituality, I'd say, but they're so focused on wanting to elevate themselves, needing to reach these higher states of being, and therefore neglecting whatever is happening here. And that can be difficult, of course.
Yeah, we still need to have the human experience. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. But, speaking of, if everything on the other side seems more real and seems, is, I also imagine, much more pleasant, how do you stay anchored in reality? Like, I can imagine, it's very tempting to be like, you know what, I'm just gonna be over there. Like, that's where I actually feel good.
Yeah. That's a good question. I think a lot of it does tie back to just knowing my purpose revolves around me being present in the physical world too. So, we can do this spiritual work, and, we can be part of these healing practices and have those connections with the other side. But we also are here to experience being human. So it is very important to have a blend of high vibrational energy and grounding energy, like you both were talking about earlier. And I think just knowing that we still have to show up, and we still have to, participate in this human experience. And yes, it can be tough. And if you take it as if you always are kind of reminding yourself that when you're going through something difficult, that there is a reason behind, and we only have a limited view and in front of us right now. And so often when we go through something hard, it's like it could be a year later, years later, like that was why that happened. That took me to this spot. So there's we're only getting a small sliver of the actual picture each moment in front of us. So when we can tap into that, we can use our relationship with the other side, I think, in a way to connect us deeper into the human experience versus kind of going the direction of what you mentioned and wanting to only be connected to the other side. So I think it's just the lens that you look at it from, and understanding that if you use that connection as a way to enhance your human experience and to be more in tune with going down the right pathway versus not being present in the human experience. And just as an example, like if you're going through something tough, and instead of looking for an escape route, like tapping in and tuning in and asking for guidance from, your loved ones, if you tap into angelic energy and just intuitively listen to the answer, versus I think often in our human experience, we tend to just want to fight for the way we want things and beat our heads against the wall, which doesn't really work that well. So I feel like that's like the best way to kind of be in both worlds for me.
Okay. So being here strengthens your connection there, and your connection there strengthens it here. Yeah. Okay. It's going into the age-old principle of as above, so below, as within, so without. It's kind of the same thing. I guess that's why it's used everywhere, really.
Yeah, exactly.
And how would you advise people who are, I don't want to say non-believers, like I'm thinking of my parents. They both grew up in a Roman Catholic household, but did fall off the faith. So my mother is or at least she says that she is a non-believer, not atheist, like she doesn't put a label on it, but non-believer. My dad, he says he's a non-believer, but he will sometimes go on a silent retreat to a monastery if things are just incredibly overwhelming and he can't get his mind to shut up. Very much like my dad in that way. So what would your advice be for people like that who, don't have that belief to fall back on, if you will.
I think just thinking about personally what would be helpful to your experience and how could you open yourself up or shift just a little bit, not in huge ways, but just shift in a little bit that would create more healing for you. And when you look at it that way, I think that can help kind of crack the window open a little bit. So whether it's getting signs or, kind of those early phases of communication with the other side, or just even having like that energy of the healing from the other side to help you. I don't think you need to completely shift your thinking. I think for those who aren't open, just taking baby steps in that direction, I think is the way to go. Kind of similarly, when I have clients that haven't meditated before or are very resistant to their ability to meditate, they think they can't meditate. I always suggest that they do a guided meditation as a first step. So just thinking about it like that, just you don't have to deep dive into the pool right now. Like just take a little baby step. Like if I listen to this sign, how could that serve me?
Okay, I'll have to, because I kind of want to bring this up with my parents as well when it comes to the loss of my brother, because he was the middle child. So there's, between my sister and myself, there's this huge gap now, it feels like. And since he was only 27 years old when we lost him, I mean, in a way, he did also join the Club of 27, which has some, awesome names in there, of course. So I guess he gets to hang out with those people now as well, which I am kind of jealous of, I guess. I mean, I'd love to hang out with Kurt Cobain, like jam with Kurt Cobain. That'd be great. Well, I see the pain it still causes, and my father is very stoic, or tries to be very stoic. In that he's always been more like that, but I see that my mother, it really pains her, it really hurts her. I mean, it's her child, it's her baby, it doesn't matter if he's 27 or 270, for all I care, he's still her baby. With when going into the new year,
Right.
bless you, I could see that, it was going into another year without him, which was incredibly painful to see. So that's also why I'm asking, because I want to help my parents with this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'd be happy to send some resources that maybe are less woo, that they might be more open to.
Well, I mean, I am grateful for my parents. They seem to be, at the very least, more accepting. There you are. Jeez, took you long enough. Yeah. My kitty co-host and familiar. Took you long enough, dude. No, but my parents seem to be more accepting now. They seem to understand it better, understand better why I believe what I believe, and also
And maybe it's part of the why, right? Maybe that's part of the why. It's like their soul's journey to have that connection and understanding.
Yeah, because I know that my father, when my brother first passed away, he did say that night he saw him sitting at the foot of the bed. And, my father, even though he is a more of a believer still, like I know, even without having seen it, it's just my father telling me, I know that, that is what happened. But for my parents, it's difficult. It's a lot more difficult because they don't, well, I don't think it's they don't accept. It's just they can't right now because they don't, believe the things that we do. Yeah, sorry, I'm going to turn this into a bit of a lighter thing right now. Sorry, it's a heavy topic. It's difficult.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of animals, you said that. Yeah, you good? Okay. Cats, I love him, but it's his way or no way. stubborn. I guess that's why I have him. You know, he also teaches me things. Patience. Teaches me a lot of patience.
I'm sure he's helping you with an emotional reset right now too.
Yeah. That I can honestly say that's also a nice transition into the animals, pets thing. I can honestly say, and I've said this many times, that I wouldn't have come out of, you know, every difficult situation of the last, I want to say like at least 10 years. If it wasn't for my pets, especially, you know, this big red right here, because I got him first. Then, like a little later, I met my so, you know, now all of a sudden I have multiple redheads around me because my daughter is also a redhead. It's almost like I have a type or something. But you mentioned that animals like really coming to you and just feeling feeling comfortable with you. And I have read many times that is a sign of a higher consciousness, a higher vibration. So like you mentioned, like wild animals, like actual wild animals.
I mean, I remember multiple times having baby deer come up to me and like touch me and just like stand there touching me.
Wow.
Yeah, that happened multiple times when I was little.
So you were a regular Snow White with all the the animals around you. Oh, but that's amazing. You don't hear that too often. I mean, you'll read about it, of course, but especially baby deer, because they are still so fragile as well.
Yeah, I remember one time when I had a baby deer come up to me on a trail, and I mean, I was probably, I don't know, maybe 12, and it was touching me, and the mother was standing right at the edge of the trail watching the whole interaction. And I could see she was kind of freaked out at first. And then she actually ended up getting closer and closer to me as well, realized it was okay. And then you could see the mom like relax her energy. And then eventually, like, it wasn't even dramatic. Like, they just walked away. It wasn't like they took off. Like, they just walked away.
Wow. That's amazing.
And I think I just knew that was a gift, you know? That I was privileged to be able to have that interaction with them.
I mean, if wild animals, and especially the the younger ones, do come up to you like that and do feel so incredibly relaxed, then yeah, that is absolutely a gift, because not many of us have that. Like I did call Timmy, or Big Red as I call him, I did call him my familiar. Is that something that you believe in as well? That you're a pet of sorts can be a familiar, can be like but in animal form.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe we have soul contracts with our animals just as much as the humans in our lives. And sometimes they play a more important role than the humans we interact with. I mean, they're with us every single day, you know, constantly. They're constantly giving us unconditional love, like truly unconditional love. Yes, I feel like sometimes they play an even more elevated role. Yeah.
Well, FireFae always says that at the very least. No, I had Timmy before, but he came at a a good time in my life. I actually found him through my cousin, who literally introduced me to him by saying like, "Hey, I saw that you were looking for a pet, for a companion. I got this, I know this cat who needs a new home, and he reminds me a lot of you." And I was like, "Oh, is that a good thing, or?" And now he's been living with me for, I want to say like at least the last 5 years, 6 years. But FireFae often says that, especially my sister's cat, because after my brother died, she got a cat as well, that her kitty was sent by my brother to keep her company, to give her somebody to love.
Yeah,
I guess.
I believe that as well.
And is that why you have like was it 4?
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of a big story, but 6 months after my husband Roger passed, my best friend Diana passed as well, and she and I were kind of in the dog world together. And so I started getting a lot of signs and messages about getting what ended up being my third dog. And then I had a dog who passed last November, and I got a lot of signs and messages from him and Roger about getting this dog that was going to be a reincarnation of Valor, the one who had passed. And so that's how I ended up with 4, because you can't ignore that when you're getting I mean, it was just like crazy, all the signs and things that had to come together for it to happen. So yeah.
Yeah. Is that also the where you got the ribbons in the background from
Yeah,
your
so
wall?
so my oldest, Mateo, those are all his show bling, if you will. But he shows, he was competitive in obedience. He's 12 and a half now, but yes, so yeah.
That's amazing. So animal reincarnations, I think that's, I mean, my wife also says that, like we said at the beginning, she has 3 big dogs, and I believe at least one of them, she says, is a reincarnation of a dog she had in the past. But yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Pets are they are amazing, and
Yeah, they are.
They teach us a lot.
Yes, they do.
Sure teach us a lot. I mean, you got to have a lot of patience for them. Oh no worries. I know what it's like. He just wants to be heard. Get some comments in as well, I guess. Yeah, I think I have said everything I want to say. Asked everything I wanted to ask. Is there anything that you are left with? Anything that you wanted to ask or no?
I don't think so. I just feel very privileged to have had this conversation with you. It was such a pleasure meeting you both.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's been a pleasure, and I knew that FireFae would kick off right away, because whenever there is someone of a similar spirit as she is, I can just sit back and be the host and let her do the talking. That's why I, sometimes like bounce the conversation towards her, because I know that she'll take it and run with it, and then it's like, okay, this is good stuff. I'll just, I am the host, but I'm also, very much loving this.
Yeah.
So yeah, then I think we can wrap this up. This was thank you so much. As your dog is walking in the background, think he wants some attention.
Yeah.
Where can the good people find you? Where can they find your work and your channel book? I'm very curious about that one.
Yeah, absolutely. So the book is available on Amazon. It's called The Enduring and Everlasting. It's also available on my website, thesoulrevival.com. They can certainly check out my coaching and some other videos and conversations I've had through the site. Sorry, my puppy's talking.
Oh, that's fine.
And then Instagram is another place. At The Healing Grief Guide is my Instagram handle. So I'm super active on there. I go live at least once a week and talk about all different topics related to grief and spirituality.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll make sure that all the links are in the description down below. Of course, I'll make sure that your work is well represented, because I do believe that the work of a grief counselor, death coach, death doula, give it a name, that it is so incredibly important. That's why I invited you on, of course, among other reasons. Not just that, of course. But yeah, thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who has been watching. Thank you to everyone who has been listening. Make sure you leave a like, leave something nice in the comments. Describe your imaginary friend who definitely wasn't imaginary, but you only found that out 20 years down the line. Share this with everyone, because these conversations are so incredibly important. I hope you all learned something from it, or at the very least found it a very pleasant conversation. For more that we do on the Greyhorn Pagans podcast and with the Tribe of the Greyhorn Pagans, go to our website, www.greyhornpagans.com. You can find everything there, from the tribe to our merch to all the podcasts that we have done so far with all the amazing guests that we have had over the last, I want to say 3 years that I've been doing this now, 100 plus episodes by now. Definitely getting there. And if you're browsing the web already, also visit Lindsay, her website, thesoulrevival.com, for if you want to know more about her. Again, thank you all so much, Lindsay. Thank you, FireFae. Honey, I know you can hear me, so thank you too for joining. This has been great. And yeah, we will see you all next time. Thank you all.
This was yet another amazing episode of the Greyhorn Pagans podcast. We thank you all for watching. We thank you all for listening. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you will be notified whenever we upload something new. Support us on Patreon for early access and for everything else that we do with the tribe, for everything else that we do with the podcast. Find us on www